Emma Thompson sat quietly at the corner table of Blackwell's fine dining. The elegant restaurant buzzed with conversation and the soft clink of expensive cutlery. Emma's simple cardigan and jeans stood out among the sea of designer outfits and sparkling jewelry. Even though her bank account held billions from her successful tech company, she never felt the need to show off her wealth. Thomas Harrington, the restaurant manager, had been watching Emma with narrowed eyes since she walked through the door. His gaze kept returning to her casual clothes and natural hair. When other guests in fine suits and dresses arrived, Thomas greeted them warmly. For Emma, he had only offered a curt nod before a waiter led her to this table right next to the noisy kitchen. The kitchen doors swung open again, sending another wave of clattering sounds and loud chef voices toward Emma's table. She sighed and raised her hand politely to catch a passing waiter's attention. "Excuse me," she said with a gentle smile. "I made a reservation for a quiet table. Would it be possible to move somewhere a bit farther from the kitchen noise?" The young waiter looked uncertain. "Let me get the manager for you, ma'am." Emma nodded and sipped her water. This wasn't the first time she'd been judged by her appearance. Even as the founder and CEO of one of the country's most successful tech companies, people often made quick judgments based on how she looked rather than who she was. Thomas approached her table with quick, sharp steps. His smile looked tight and unfriendly. "Is there a problem with your table?" he asked, his voice louder than necessary. "No problem at all," Emma replied calmly. "I simply requested a table further from the kitchen noise when I made my reservation. I have an important call later and would appreciate a quieter spot." Thomas looked around the busy restaurant, his eyes lingering on several empty tables by the windows. Instead of offering one of those, he turned back to Emma with a cold stare. "I'm afraid we need this table for proper guests," he said loudly. Several nearby diners looked up from their meals. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable somewhere, more suited to your budget." Emma kept her face neutral even as the insult stung. She had grown up poor, raised by a mother who worked 3 jobs. The journey to billionaire status had been long and hard. She had faced doubters at every step. "I've made a reservation and would simply prefer a quieter table," she repeated. "My budget isn't the issue." Thomas's face reddened slightly. "Listen," he said, leaning closer. "We have a certain clientele here. I can't have you disturbing our regular guests with your presence." An older couple at the next table exchanged uncomfortable glances. A young man in a business suit frowned at Thomas's words. "I'm not disturbing anyone," Emma said firmly. "I'm a paying customer who made a reservation." "Without proper attire," Thomas snapped. "We have standards here." "Your website doesn't mention a dress code," Emma pointed out. "And several of your guests are wearing jeans." Thomas's face grew redder. He straightened up and motioned to a waiter standing nearby. "Call the police. We have someone refusing to leave." The restaurant fell suddenly quiet. Emma sat straighter, in her chair, her dignity intact as whispers rippled through the dining room. She took a deep breath and remained calm. "Very well," she said. "I'll wait for them here." Thomas crossed his arms, clearly pleased with himself. "You'll regret causing this scene." Emma didn't respond. In her pocket, her phone buzzed. Probably her assistant, checking if she was enjoying her rare night off. Little did anyone know that the woman they were treating so poorly had just closed a deal worth millions that morning. Her company's technology was changing lives across the world. As she waited for the police to arrive, Emma looked around at the other diners. Some looked away quickly, embarrassed. Others watched with open curiosity. She hadn't faced such blatant discrimination in years, but sadly she wasn't surprised. Even in her expensive car or at high-level business meetings, people still sometimes saw only what they expected to see. The front doors opened, and 2 police officers walked in. Thomas hurried over to speak with them first, pointing at Emma. She remained seated, back straight, face calm. This wouldn't be the first time she had to prove herself worthy of being in a space, and sadly she knew it probably wouldn't be the last. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers walked confidently through the restaurant doors. Officer William Parker, tall with broad shoulders and a serious expression, led the way. His partner, Jane Mills, followed closely behind, her observant eyes quickly scanning the room. They approached Emma's table with professional expressions. their badges gleaming under the restaurant's fancy lights. Thomas hurried over to meet them, pointing toward Emma. "Officers, thank you for coming so quickly. This woman refuses to leave after being asked multiple times." The officers nodded and walked toward Emma, who remained seated with perfect posture despite the stares from other diners. When they got far closer, something changed in their faces. Officer Parker's eyes widened slightly in recognition. "Ms. Thompson?" Officer Parker said with surprise in his voice. "Is everything all right?" Thomas blinked in confusion, looking between Emma and the officers. He stepped forward, pointing at Emma again. "This woman is disturbing our guests and refusing to leave when asked." Officer Mills looked at Thomas with a puzzled expression. "Sir, do you know who this is?" Thomas crossed his arms and scoffed loudly. "Someone who clearly doesn't belong here. Look at how she's dressed. My customers expect a certain level of class." Several diners shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few looked embarrassed by the manager's behavior. Emma remained calm and collected as she slowly stood up, smoothing her simple cardigan. "I'm Emma Thompson, CEO of Horizon Technologies," she said in a clear, steady voice. "We recently donated the new communication systems for your police department, the ones that help officers respond to emergencies more quickly." The color drained from Thomas's face as he processed her words. His mouth opened and closed without making a sound. Officer Mills turned to Thomas, speaking clearly enough for nearby tables to hear. "Sir, Miss Thompson is one of the wealthiest businesswomen in the country and a major philanthropist. Her company's technology saves lives every day. Our department couldn't function without the systems her company donated," Officer Parker added. "Chief Wilson spoke at the ribbon-cutting ceremony just last month." Thomas's confident posture crumbled. He looked like he might be sick. I had no idea." Whispers spread through the restaurant like wildfire. Several diners pulled out their phones, taking pictures or searching Emma's name online. A woman at a nearby table gasped softly as she found information on her phone. "It is her. That's Emma Thompson," the woman whispered to her dinner companion. "She was on the cover of Business Today last year. A young man at the bar recognized her too. She gave that amazing speech at the tech conference, the one about using technology to help people in poor communities." Emma remained humble despite the growing recognition. For years she had worked quietly, letting her achievements speak louder than publicity. She rarely did interviews and avoided the spotlight when possible, focusing instead on building her company and helping others. "I simply wanted a quiet table away from the kitchen," Emma explained to the officers. "When I asked to move, the situation escalated quickly." Officer Parker nodded understandingly. "Ms. Thompson, would you like to file a complaint?" Before Emma could answer, the restaurant's owner, Richard Wilson, rushed in from the back office. He had clearly been informed about the situation, his face pale with worry. "Ms. Thompson, I'm Richard Wilson, the owner," he said, slightly out of breath. "I've just been told what happened. Please accept my deepest apologies. This is completely unacceptable." He turned to Thomas with a stern look. "Thomas, in my office now." Thomas, still stunned by the revelation, nodded weakly and followed his boss toward the back. Richard turned back to Emma. "Please, Ms. Thompson, allow us to serve you properly. Any table in the house is yours, and your meal is entirely on us. Tonight." Emma smiled gently. "Thank you, Mr. Wilson, I appreciate that, but I think I've lost my appetite for now." Several diners watched the scene with interest. Some looked ashamed for not speaking up earlier. Others were busy sharing the story. On social media, Emma Thompson's name was already starting to trend online, her story of discrimination at an upscale restaurant spreading quickly. As Emma gathered her purse to leave, Officer Mills spoke quietly. "My sister's daughter got one of your company's scholarships for young women in tech. She's in college now because of you, thank you." Emma nodded with a genuine smile. The uncomfortable evening had turned into yet another reminder of why she worked so hard, not for recognition or special treatment, but to make a difference. Emma Thompson sat in her sleek office, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the polished mahogany desk. The morning light streamed through expansive windows, casting a sharp contrast to the tension brewing from the previous night's incident. Social media had transformed her personal experience into a global conversation, with her name trending across every digital platform. George Bedford, the restaurant owner, arrived looking visibly distressed. His usual confident demeanor was replaced by a mix of embarrassment and genuine remorse. "Miss Thompson," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I am deeply sorry for what happened. Thomas's actions are completely unacceptable and do not reflect our restaurant's values." Emma listened carefully, her eyes revealing a depth of understanding that went beyond simple anger. She knew this moment was about more than personal hurt. It was an opportunity for meaningful change. Growing up with a single mother who worked multiple jobs had taught her resilience and perspective. "Firing Thomas won't solve the deeper problem," she said quietly. "The real issue is the system that creates and tolerates such behavior." George looked puzzled, but listened intently. Emma explained her vision, not of punishment, but of education and transformation. She proposed a comprehensive training program for the restaurant staff, focusing on diversity, respect, and understanding different cultural experiences. Her proposal was radical, yet simple. Instead of public shaming or legal action, she wanted to create a platform for genuine learning and growth. Thomas would be required to participate in intensive workshops, learn about unconscious bias, and understand the real impact of his actions. The #Emma Thompson continued to spread, with people sharing their own stories of discrimination and prejudice. But Emma saw beyond the viral moment. She understood that true change happens through conversation, empathy, and a willingness to learn. As social media buzzed and news outlets picked up the story, Emma remained calm. Her tech empire had been built on understanding complex human behaviors, and this was no different. She saw potential where others might see only conflict. George agreed to her proposal, impressed by her approach. The restaurant would implement new training programs, and Thomas would be part of a structured path to understanding and personal growth. It wasn't about punishment, but about creating real, meaningful change. Emma's strategy was powerful in its simplicity. She transformed a moment of potential division into an opportunity for unity and understanding. Her own experiences of facing assumptions and barriers had taught her that change doesn't come through anger, but through intelligent, compassionate dialogue. As the day progressed, her approach began to shift the narrative. People started discussing not just the incident, but the broader issues of respect, understanding, and personal growth. Emma Thompson was showing the world a different way of addressing prejudice, not with revenge, but with education and empathy. The story was spreading, and with it, a message of hope and transformation. Emma had turned a painful personal experience into a catalyst for broader social understanding, proving that true leadership isn't about reacting, but about creating meaningful, positive change. Her phone buzzed with messages of support, news, interview requests, and messages from people inspired by her approach. But Emma remained focused on the real goal, not fame or viral moments, but genuine systemic change that could make a real difference in how people understand and respect each other. In that moment, she wasn't just a successful tech entrepreneur. She was a beacon of hope, showing that compassion and understanding could be more powerful than anger and division. The incident at the restaurant was becoming a turning point, not just for Thomas or the restaurant, but for everyone watching and learning. 2 weeks after the restaurant incident, Thomas stood outside the sleek building housing Emma Thompson's foundation. His hands trembled slightly as he pushed open the glass doors, expecting confrontation but feeling uncertain about what awaited him. Emma sat in a simple meeting room, her posture calm and welcoming. She looked different from their previous encounter, not as a victim but as a powerful leader who understood the deeper complexities of human behavior. "Sit down, Thomas," she said softly. Thomas sat, his shoulders hunched with a mixture of shame and anxiety. He had been dreading this moment, expecting legal threats or public humiliation. Instead, he found something entirely unexpected: understanding. Emma began sharing stories about her foundation's work. She showed photographs that told powerful narratives: children learning computer skills, single parents starting small businesses, and communities gaining hope through technology education. Each image represented transformation, not just of individuals but of entire social systems. I could easily take legal action against you, Emma said, her voice steady and calm. But that wouldn't change anything. Instead, I'm offering you an opportunity to learn and grow. She proposed a 6-month work program within her foundation, where Thomas would help implement community technology programs. It wasn't a punishment, but a chance for genuine personal development. Thomas was stunned. He had anticipated anger, yet found compassion. His previous assumptions about Emma, about success, about privilege, were crumbling with each passing moment. The woman before him was nothing like the stereotype he had initially imagined. "Why would you do this?" Thomas asked, his voice breaking. "After how I treated you." Emma's response was simple yet profound. "Because changing one person means potentially changing many. Anger doesn't solve systemic problems. Understanding and education do." Tears began forming in Thomas's eyes. The weight of his previous actions settled heavily on his shoulders. He realized this was more than a job offer. It was a chance at personal redemption. "I'm truly sorry," he whispered, his voice filled with genuine remorse. "I judged you without knowing anything about your journey." Emma nodded, understanding that this moment was about more than an individual incident. It represented a broader conversation about prejudice, assumptions, and the potential for human growth. The foundation's walls seemed to tell stories of countless individuals who had transformed their lives through education and opportunity. Thomas was about to become part of that narrative, not as a victim or a villain, but as someone willing to learn and change. Outside, the city continued its busy rhythm, but inside this room, something significant was happening, a moment of potential. Conflict was turning into an opportunity for understanding and personal growth. Thomas's journey was just beginning. He would spend the next 6 months learning about technology, community development, and most importantly, about himself. Emma's approach was revolutionary, turning a moment of prejudice into a pathway for education and empathy. The photographs on the wall continued to tell their silent stories, of hope, of potential, of human beings rising above their circumstances. Thomas was about to become part of that ongoing narrative of transformation. As he looked at Emma, he saw not an adversary, but a teacher. Not someone seeking revenge, but someone committed to creating meaningful change. His perception was shifting, layer by layer, moment by moment. The Foundation's meeting room became more than just a space. It was a symbol of possibility, of how understanding could replace judgment, and how compassion could be a more powerful tool for change than anger or punishment. Thomas took a deep breath. His first step towards true understanding was about to begin. Emma watched him, seeing not his past mistakes but his potential for growth. In this moment, she was offering more than a job. She was offering a chance at personal transformation. The story was just beginning, and its impact would reach far beyond this single room, this single moment of human connection. 6 months had passed since that life-changing moment in Emma Thompson's foundation. Blackwell's fine dining was now a completely different place, buzzing with energy and purpose on the night of the charity gala. Thomas stood at the entrance, greeting guests, with a warm smile that seemed worlds away from the person he had been months earlier. His uniform was crisp, his manner welcoming and genuine. Where once he had been quick to judge, he now understood the importance of seeing people's true value. Emma arrived wearing a simple yet elegant dress that spoke of understated confidence. The restaurant glimmered with transformation, not just in decor but in spirit. Photographs showcasing the Foundation's work lined the walls, telling stories of hope and opportunity. "Everything looks wonderful," Emma said, scanning the room. Thomas smiled. "Thanks to you," he replied. "Not just for the second chance, but for showing me what real class looks like." The evening was a celebration of more than just a successful charity event. It was a testament to personal growth and community change. Under George and Thomas's new leadership, the restaurant had implemented comprehensive diversity training. They had also created scholarship programs for young people from underprivileged backgrounds who dreamed of careers in culinary arts. When Emma took the stage, the room fell silent. Her presence commanded respect, not through intimidation, but through genuine compassion and understanding. True wealth isn't measured by what's in your bank account, she told the gathered crowd. It's measured by how many lives you touch. Sometimes, our most negative experiences can become our greatest opportunities for growth and change. The audience applauded, moved by her words. Thomas joined her on stage, a living example of personal transformation. His journey from prejudice to understanding was visible in every confident step. We all make mistakes, Emma concluded. It's what we learn from them that defines us. The room was filled with people from different backgrounds, young and old, from various economic and cultural backgrounds. They represented the true vision of what Emma's foundation stood for: opportunity, understanding, and hope. Thomas looked out at the crowd, remembering his previous narrow-minded view of the world. Now he saw potential in every face. The scholarship recipients sat in the front rows, their eyes bright with promise and excitement. George Bedford watched from the side, proud of the changes they had implemented. The restaurant was no longer just a place to eat, but a platform for social change and understanding. As the evening progressed, people shared stories, networked, and celebrated the foundation's achievements. Young chefs who had received scholarships spoke about their dreams, their voices filled with hope and determination. Emma moved through the crowd, talking to guests, listening to their stories. She was more than a successful entrepreneur. She was a catalyst for change, proving that compassion could be a powerful tool for transformation. Thomas observed her, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. His life had changed completely because one person chose understanding over anger, education over punishment. The charity gala was more than an event. It was a statement about second chances, about breaking down barriers, about seeing the humanity in everyone. As the night drew to a close, Emma and Thomas stood together, symbolizing a journey of personal growth and societal change. Their story was a reminder that people could change, that understanding could triumph over prejudice. The restaurant that had once been a place of division was now a beacon of hope. Each table, each conversation represented a small step towards a more inclusive, compassionate world. Thomas looked at Emma, feeling a profound sense of respect and gratitude. She had not just given him a second chance, but had shown him an entire new way of seeing the world. The lights of Blackwell's fine dining glowed warmly, a symbol of transformation, hope, and the incredible power of human understanding.